I said that you're working with, and that's not a bad thing. I wasn't saying that in a bad way. So you have to deal with 3 different substances. So how many of these are you probably going to want to use if you're using temperature probes? Clearly 3. And what you do is you get 1 paper towel. You take your temperature probes, and I put them side by side by side. Actually, I'll set it up properly so that you guys can get the whole picture. Probe number 2, right beside it. And probe number 3, beside it. Now, because you have a light source, and your light source is not widespread. I mean, this is kind of widespread, but there's going to be an area where it's going to be more direct than other areas. So you want to actually get these probes as close as possible to each other, so that way the light is hitting them relatively equally. Otherwise, you have an experimental error. And then what you do is you're going to take some of your substrate. So this time I'm going to take sand. It's one of my choices. You want to put the probe down first. So a lot of students, when they do this technique, they put the substrate down and try to stick the probe in, which generally doesn't work as well. So it generally works better when you use this technique. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the entire probe with that substrate. So now the stainless steel part is covered. And then I'll do the same thing with my limestone here. And then I'll do the same thing with my third probe, right? So at this point, I now have 3 probes. I haven't done a third. I have 3 probes that are covered. I turn on my light source, and then I let it run. And then what this might do is it might tell me something about the albedo. If I make a prediction, which one between these 2 do you expect to be hotter? The sand on the left, or the limestone, which is white in the middle?
Sand.
The sand. Okay, so we all said sand because the albedo is higher or lower?
It's low.
Lower, so therefore it's absorbing more, right? So that's one technique. Another technique I could use is I can have a 4th probe connected, because your computer's allowed you to do 4 probes, and that has a light sensor on it. So I can measure the temperature to see the temperature changing. I can measure the reflectivity with the light, and now I have all the data I need to complete my lab. So you're designing a lab that's similar to this. Some students, what they do instead of doing this technique, they take a beaker that's relatively thin, they put the temperature probe inside, and they fill it up. That's a lot of wasted stuff. So you have to be careful how many things you put inside the beaker. But that's a possibility as well. So I'm providing you with a bunch of things. If I don't provide it to you, you can request it. So you want to use a graduated cylinder or something like that, that's fine. We recognize everything you use, you must clean. So it's your lab. You get to design it. But you need to come in on Monday with a design. And remember, the question that you're answering is, which of the substances is going to heat up the quickest? And you must use the terms albedo and specific heat capacity. Really focus on albedo, but if you don't get the answer you expect, it might be because of specific heat capacity. Because if I got sand versus soil versus gravel, recognize rock is got a specific heat capacity that's different than soil. What does soil have in it that rock doesn't?
Moisture.
It's got water.
Yeah.
And what do I say about water? Water takes
Longer.
a long time to heat up. And when it heats up, it retains its heat. The last part of this lab that will put you at the highest level is, in addition to telling me which one's going to heat up the fastest, I'd also like to know which one is going to cool down the slowest. I know they seem like opposite sides of the same coin, but if you're able to make that prediction and explain it, then you truly understand what's going on with albedo and specific heat capacity and everything I want you to understand with this concept. Right? Many of you will just do the first part, which is fine. That's kind of level 3, low level 4, mid-level 4. If you're looking for a high level 4, 4 plus, 90, 96, that kind of stuff, then you go to that final stage and tell me which one cools down quicker as well. Are there any questions about what you're doing at the lab?